I pulled off a Creepy-Crawlies hack on a TV quiz show and won big. I grew up on a tiny island where our local quiz show was such a big deal that everyone tuned in every week. A few years back, I actually got my name on the contestant list for the televised version, one of the most nerve-wracking yet thrilling experiences of my life. The format was straightforward: nail a series of challenges to earn points, and you could walk away with some pretty sweet prizes. They kicked things off with a math round, complex equations and number puzzles, and since I work with numbers every day, I practically breezed through that part. Then came the mindbender. You were sealed inside a transparent box filled with reminders of your deepest fears, and you had to write down every single thing that gave you the chills. Everyone else listed common phobias: heights, public speaking, tight spaces, but I flipped the script and wrote down the things I wasn't scared of: spiders, cockroaches, snakes, scorpions, even wood lice. I've grown up handling creepy crawlies around my family's farm, so when it was my turn, I just smiled and handed in my sheet. The final test was the showstopper: wade through a thick layer of soil and move hundreds of live cockroaches to uncover hidden clues for the next round. While most contestants froze or flinched, I knelt right in, scooping handfuls of dirt and nudging the insects aside until I found what I needed, well within the time limit. That win landed me a brand new car, something I never expected I'd cherish forever. As soon as I was free to do so, I sold it at full price and used the cash to upgrade to a nicer model that fit my daily needs better. Recently, after a few drinks at a family gathering, I casually bragged about how I aced the bug challenge by turning my childhood hobby into a winning strategy. My cousin thought it was genius, but my little sister accused me of exploiting my advantage and called me a total bad. She argued that I should have played fair rather than lean into something so off-putting to most people. I'm left wondering, did I cross a line by using what others fear against them, or was this just smart gameplay? I defended myself by pointing out that it was literally part of the rules, and if nobody else wanted to list their non-fears, that's on them. So, Reddit, aita for turning my insect handling skills into a quiz show victory? Sometimes leaning into your weirdest strengths pays off big, but the real win? Owning who you are. Next, we go from game shows to the classroom, where one student refused to let her teacher erase her identity. I make my teacher finally say my name. You won't believe what happened. My teacher always mocked my first name, calling it odd and insisting my last name should have been my given name instead. After that, she refused to use my first name at all and only ever called me by my surname. On quizzes and exams, she'd even cross out my first name when I wrote it at the top. I kept politely reminding her that I preferred my first name, but she just brushed me off with a laugh. So I decided to flip the script and started calling her by her first name instead of Mrs. The first time I did it, she looked stunned, but a month later, she was angrily accusing me of total disrespect. I ended up with several detentions over it, but I wasn't about to stop until she used my real name. Which brings me to the big question: am I the bad guy for insisting on calling her by her first name? For context, I have an Arabic name, and in my country, most people share that heritage. It's also common practice here to address teachers by their first names, like saying Fatima instead of Ms. Fatima. I simply dropped the Ms. and stuck with her given name. Our education system is one of the few bright spots in my country, so these customs might differ from what you're used to. At first, almost everyone in the comments agreed I wasn't the bad guy. But then I shared an update that really surprised people. I want to start by thanking everyone who chimed in. You guys really boosted my confidence. Your support gave me the courage to ask my parents, yet again, to come with me to the principal's office. Unsurprisingly, they said no, which was tough to hear. I even shed a few tears. Later, my dad softened and told me he would back me up if I tried one more time on my own. So, I marched into my teacher's classroom for one final attempt, fully expecting the same stubborn response. I calmly told her I didn't appreciate her teasing about my name, and that if she persisted, I would keep calling her by her first name without the Ms. She snapped back that I was being very disrespectful and had every right to do as she pleased. I pointed out that others thought she was unfair, and she just stared in confusion. Then I handed her my phone, opened to the Reddit comments, and asked her to read what people were saying. It struck her like a bolt. Her expression shifted from blank to genuinely sad in seconds. She admitted my name reminded her of someone from her past who'd hurt her, so hearing it triggered bad memories. She apologized profusely, promising she'd make an effort to use my correct name and stop crossing it out on tests. In the meantime, she said I could keep calling her by her first name until she adjusted. Now, all my classmates are jealous I'm the only one she lets call her Fatima. We even agreed she'd speak with the principal to erase my undeserved detentions. Honestly, I never expected such a tidy resolution. I'm pretty sure some of you wanted me to get her fired, but instead we got a happy ending. A little courage and a lot of self-respect can change everything, even someone else's heart. Now, let's talk about secrets, trust, and the moment you lay everything bare, and pray they don't walk away. I revealed my escort past and his response shocked me. I'd been wrestling with guilt over keeping my history hidden, wondering if it would come back to haunt our marriage. Almost everyone online said I was in the wrong for burying such major information, but I knew I had to set the record straight with my fiancé. After mulling over all the feedback, I realized I couldn't drag this secret into our future together. It wasn't an easy decision, but one evening, after a few glasses of wine, I asked him to sit down because I needed to tell him something important. I even toyed with the idea of seducing him first and then dropping the bomb, but I knew that would feel manipulative. So I took a deep breath and confessed that my prolific phase included about 4 months working as an escort. He paused for a moment, clearly surprised, and admitted he never saw that coming. I pointed out that I've always dressed modestly, rarely drink, and volunteer with our church's kids program. Tears filled my eyes as I asked if this changed how he felt about me. He gently squeezed my hand and said, "What you did doesn't alter the woman I fell in love with, so why should it matter now?" I couldn't help but cry tears of relief while I begged him to let me know if he ever needed to talk or had concerns. He smiled and joked that maybe sometime he'd want to hear a cool or sexy story, but for now, he was just proud I trusted him enough to be honest. With a grin, he quipped, "Well, I guess that explains why you blow my mind every time we hug," and in that moment it felt absolutely perfect. Before long, we were wrapped in each other again, heading to the bedroom with a newfound closeness. Ever since, it's felt like a massive weight has lifted. I've seen exactly how much he loves me, flaws and all. Now, as we both work from home in lockdown, I'm more grateful than ever for a partner who embraces my past and my present. Sometimes honesty makes love stronger, but in families, even a few words can break everything apart. Now picture this: you've got kids, chickens, and a peaceful backyard, until the neighbors turn into the noise police. I sparked a family feud by calling out my adopted brother. Am I the bad one? I was on a video call with my cousin and her friends when someone asked if the kid beside me was my boyfriend, so I casually said, "Nope, that's my brother." They pointed out we don't look anything alike, so I added, "He's adopted," wanting to be honest about our relationship. I explained that he never really fits in, his mannerisms and appearance are just different from the rest of the family. My brother went stone quiet and stormed off, and later when I found him, we ended up in a heated argument. He accused me of acting like I'm ashamed to be linked to him by always clarifying we're not biologically related. I fired back that since we aren't blood relatives, I have the right to introduce him however I choose, and that only made things worse. Apparently my dad saw my brother crying and blew up at me, and now my parents are demanding I apologize. So I've got to ask, did I cross a line by being blunt about his adoption, or was I just telling the truth? It's one thing to speak your truth, it's another when the people you love feel left out of it. Next up, fake jellyfish, real tension, and one breakup that might have started over a glowing tank. You won't believe what happened when I called my girlfriend's fake jellyfish tank a scam. I'm a 22-year-old guy living with my girlfriend, Alice, who's 26. We've been sharing her place for just over 4 months while I finished school, and everything's been great until last week, when I drove by her apartment and spotted her setting up a tank full of glowing, fake jellyfish. At first, I assumed she'd gotten real pets, but when I asked what was up, she said the LED jellyfish were supposed to help with her anxiety. I was baffled. She's been on antidepressants for years, so why fall for an online gimmick? I couldn't stop myself. I told her it struck me as a total scam and warned that guests would feel weird hanging out around a tank of fake sea creatures. Alice snapped back, called me an idiot, and asked me to leave because, apparently, I was raising my voice even though I thought I was being calm. She ghosted me for a week, then texted this morning, "Just wanted to let you know the jellyfish were amazing. I feel so much calmer at night, but honestly I think dumping your insecure self was the best medicine." I'm sure she didn't really break up with me over a fish tank, but now I'm left wondering if I overreacted and whether calling her out was too harsh. So, was I the bad for questioning my girlfriend's fake jellyfish tank and calling it out as a scam? Turns out, it's not always about the jellyfish, sometimes, it's about being heard. And speaking of getting attention, this next partner pulled the plug, literally, to get a little help with the twins. I cut off his internet mid-diaper duty. Did I go too far? I'm 30 and my wife and I are both on parental leave with our infant twins. We share every chore, but lately I've been doing most of the feedings and diaper changes because my husband disappears into the bathroom for ages, sometimes over 25 minutes, with his phone in hand, scrolling YouTube. He claims medication makes him camp out in there, but doctors say that's unlikely without more serious symptoms. Since I'm juggling warming bottles, changing diapers, burping one baby, then rushing to settle the other before he finally re-emerges, I've been stretched to my limit. So yesterday I introduced a new rule: if he's still on his phone 10 minutes after locking the door, I'll cut the Wi-Fi. To my surprise, his bathroom sessions dropped under 15 minutes and he was furious when the internet went dark. I feel like it proved my point and restored some balance, but my husband insists I was unreasonable and that sleep deprivation is clouding my judgment. Am I the bad guy for pulling the plug on his Wi-Fi to keep our household and our babies running smoothly? When parenting becomes a solo act, sometimes a little tech disruption is exactly what the house needs. Now imagine needing glasses and walking away with a police report. Yeah, this next one's a ride. I called the cops on my eye doctor. You'll never guess why. Was I out of line for phoning the non-emergency line when my optometrist refused to hand over my prescription? Yesterday, I went for my very first eye exam because my vision had been getting noticeably worse over time. The doctor was friendly and efficient, and I thought everything was wrapped up until I asked for my written prescription at the front desk. The receptionist curtly told me that the prescription was for our records and insisted I buy frames from the shop next door, which is owned by the same practice. I explained I only needed simple reading glasses and didn't want to overpay for designer frames, but she launched into a rant about online retailers being scams, despite my brother using them without issues. When I politely but firmly demanded the prescription I'd paid for, both she and the optometrist doubled down and still wouldn't give it to me. Feeling stuck and knowing my medical records legally belonged to me, I called the non-emergency police line to explain the situation. About 10 minutes later, an officer arrived, listened to my side, then quietly spoke with the receptionist. 5 minutes after that, I was summoned back to the desk where she begrudgingly handed over my prescription, no apology included. I thanked the officer, grabbed my paperwork, and left feeling vindicated but a bit uneasy about dragging law enforcement into a routine medical dispute. When I told a friend later, he laughed and called me Karen for wasting police time, yet I couldn't shake the feeling they were in the wrong for withholding my records. After seeing how the officer's intervention got results, I started researching and learned that withholding my medical records might actually violate HIPAA. That convinced me I wasn't the bad guy and that I should consider filing a formal complaint against the practice. So here I am, wondering if I crossed a line by calling the cops, or if standing up for my rights was the right move. Am I the bad guy for calling in backup when my eye doctor tried to keep my prescription hostage? Sometimes, you have to call for backup to protect your rights, but some truths don't need a phone call, they just need courage. Next, a confession that started in therapy and exploded at home when being honest cuts deeper than expected. I told my wife I regret having kids. Her response blew up our marriage. I'm a 44-year-old dad of 7 and 5-year-old twins, and lately my wife and I have been in marriage counseling because parenthood kind of wrecked our relationship. After years of sleepless nights, endless tantrums, and mounting disagreements, our counselor finally asked me point-blank if I choose to have kids all over again. Without sugarcoating it, I admitted that if I could rewind my life back to finishing grad school at 25, I wouldn't pick fatherhood. It wasn't nearly as rewarding as everyone says. I stressed that I love my daughters and would protect them with my life, but the realities of parenting have worn me down: the constant sacrifices, the stress of providing, and feeling more drained than fulfilled. To me, life before kids felt full of possibility, whereas now I'm just grinding through each day at a job I loathe, dreaming of a simpler past. My wife exploded when she heard my confession and, in a moment of anger, told our 6-year-old that Daddy wishes you were never born, something I would never say to our kids, and that infuriated me even more. I reminded her I said it only in the safe space of counseling, never in front of our children, but the damage was done. Our marriage feels like it's beyond repair. Now I'm bracing for a bitter divorce where she'll use my honesty against me, paint me as a monster for loving my kids yet regretting having them, and fight for full custody. I still want to be a dad, but I wish we could agree that parenting can be both deeply loving and deeply challenging without vilifying each other for admitting the hard parts. Am I in the wrong for telling the truth about my regrets in counseling? Some truths are meant to heal, but others can break everything, even the people you still love. And finally, we close with a story about breaking free when you're done being someone else's lifeline and ready to start living your own life. They treated me like their personal caregiver. Am I the bad for cutting them off? I keep wondering if I'm the bad person for everything I've done, even after sharing that big update. Ever since I posted and unpacked the situation with my grandpa, this past week has been a roller coaster, some good, some awful, but I'll break down exactly what happened. I kicked things off by sitting down with my grandpa and explaining why I completely fell apart, and honestly, he looked shell-shocked. Apparently, nobody in my family realized my parents were practically using me as a free nanny for my sister. My grandpa dropped some truths I'm not comfortable repeating here, but basically, my sister should have been in professional care, and my parents were blatantly skipping out on that responsibility. Beyond that, I technically wasn't supposed to be her caregiver at all, since her mental state was apparently a real risk to her own safety and to other people. I also told him about things like the incident at the movie theater, and he got furious. He forbid me from contacting my parents without him there. He insisted he'd speak with them first and sit in on any meeting I had with mom and dad. But that wasn't the end of it. The rest of the week, relatives kept checking in on me and revealing more secrets my parents hid. For instance, they'd been collecting money from family members to pay for a caretaker who didn't actually exist. Needless to say, it's been a brutal week, but on the plus side, my extended family has been showering me with more love than I've felt in ages. My grandpa devoted his time to making up for all the years I lost, urging me to hang out with friends and do things just for fun. My aunts and uncles also stepped in, offering support and encouragement day after day. Then, on Saturday night, I finally sat down face to face with my parents. It was a total disaster, to put it mildly. They admitted a lot of the lies and cover-ups. They shared things I won't repeat here, but not once did they say sorry. Instead, they still insisted I owed my sister every minute of my time. My dad even flat out told me, "You were born to care for her." I won't pretend I kept my cool through all of that. After absorbing everything, I confronted them about my sister's real need for professional help, the phantom caretaker, and all the money Dad had been pocketing. They either dodged the questions or came up with lame excuses, and by the end, we were in an even worse place than before. Today is going to be the last time I talk to them for a while. After hashing it out with my grandpa and uncle last night, I've decided I'm not going back. Later today, I'll swing by their house, grab my things, and move in with my grandpa. Once I graduate high school, I plan to leave the state and go to college somewhere fresh. My aunt told me that the money she'd been sending to my dad will come straight to me from now on. My parents have called twice since Saturday. Neither one bothered to apologize, they just kept asking when I'd come home. And I have no intention of returning. Right now, I still feel shaky about the whole situation, but I trust that uncertainty will fade with time. Meanwhile, the rest of my family has been there for me nonstop, and honestly, it feels incredible to be supported. But in losing their approval, I've effectively lost my parents. Through all of this chaos, I discovered something I wish I'd realized sooner. I don't hate my sister. In fact, I love her more than anything. I should never have blamed her for my resentment toward my parents. That was unfair, and someday I hope I can make it up to her, but for right now, I need to put some distance between me and my parents. After we finished moving my stuff out of their house, my grandpa and uncle helped load everything into my car and drive it over to his place. I managed to gather my birth certificate, social security card, and every important document I could think of. During the whole process, my parents barely spoke, not a single apology, just silence. At one point, Dad left with my sister, and Mom hovered in the background, too stunned to say much. It wasn't until we were driving away that she finally broke down, whispered that she loved me, and told me she'd miss me. I hugged her tight, told her goodbye, and that was the end of it. Now I find myself replaying her words, wondering if she truly meant them after all the silence. After an entire week without a single heartfelt I love you, she waited until the last moment to say it. I really hope she meant what she said. But for now, I'm focused on moving forward. Maybe one day I'll rebuild a bridge with my parents. I truly hope that's possible. In the meantime, I'm leaning on the people who've shown up for me when it mattered most. And even if I'm the bad in this story, I know I had to choose my own well-being first.